It's like, oh, I'm real sad, Elliot.
Yeah.
I'm really sad. I'm old. I'm old and sad.
I'm alone.
I'm just so old.
That's the
I'm
whole
really
movie.
sad.
Bigfoot was disappointing too. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll see. Keep drinking the Jack Daniels. It'll help you.
Yeah.
I gotta get some Baileys in me.
Like, hey, husband, what did you do today? I drank half a fifth of bourbon.
Talked about
before noon.
talked about movies.
I bit my ear off. I'm really old.
Butterflies die.
Bigfoot didn't have any trouble biting my ear off because my ear is really old and saggy. It's really got soft flesh. You just got to kind of pull on it and it just kind of falls off.
Oh,
Seen Patrick Swayze around? Oh, he died. He's lucky.
Oh my God.
Doesn't have to make any more terrible movies.
If Patrick Swayze was around, he would have been in this movie instead of me.
This movie. Jude.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick this movie?
Because Sam Elliott's in it and Bigfoot. And I was like, Sam Elliott and Bigfoot?
Now, wait,
Yeah.
now, wait a second. You look at the title of this thing,
Yeah.
and you go, this is going to be the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was.
And then you watch it.
Yeah. The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt. So be prepared to get hoodwinked because we're talking the man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
Best title for a movie ever.
I wish they had put as much thought into the actual movie as they did the title.
Shit.
Welcome back to another episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your host, the Salty Nerd, and today's episode, like I said, we're going to be discussing the Sam Elliott movie, The Man Who Killed Hitler, and then the Bigfoot. And I'm joined, as always, by my talented co-hosts, starting with the person who picked this movie, Jude,
Thanks.
the ambassador of estrogen.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
I'm really sorry.
I know. I'm also joined by the barbarian space Viking, Matt Vader.
What's up?
Hey. I'm also joined by the author extraordinaire, Matthew Kadish.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Not a whole lot. Ready to talk about this incredible mind-bending movie.
We're really low key today.
Yeah, right. We got to amp it up a little bit.
Like
This movie was low key.
It's going to put me to sleep.
This movie put me to sleep. All right, guys, before we get into it and we dive super deep into this movie, let's hear a quick word from some sponsors.
When it comes to working at Geico, our best advocates are our employees, like Maxine. But since she is so focused on growing her career, we hired an actor to read her story.
At Geico, I love mentoring the new associates to help them make this a career and not just a job.
And with new opportunities and job stability, Geico has been helping people grow their careers for over 75 years. The only downside, she still hasn't met the gecko. Where are you, fella?
Ready to start your career, Virginia Beach? We're hiring claim sales and service agents. Apply online today at geico.job/Virginia Beach.
When it comes to working at Geico, our best advocates are our employees, like Maxine. But since she is so focused on growing her career, we hired an actor to read her story.
At Geico, I love mentoring the new associates to help them make this a career and not just a job.
And with new opportunities and job stability, Geico has been helping people grow their careers for over 75 years. The only downside, she still hasn't met the gecko. Where are you, fella?
Ready to start your career, Virginia Beach? We're hiring claim sales and service agents. Apply online today at geico.job/Virginia Beach.
All right. Who wants to talk about this movie first? Jude, do you have the synopsis ready? All right.
Well.
The cone of shame is upon you.
Yes, it is.
All right. So I don't have any budget information for this movie, but
Because there wasn't one.
yeah, that's very clear.
Sam Elliott in his PJs.
Apparently, they're calling it micro budgeting for these movies that are coming out now.
Okay.
The trend is to do a micro budget.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like doing it.
That sounds so LA.
Yeah.
When did they make
Yeah.
this?
Micro budget is the new indie film.
Yeah. What is it? 2015, you said?
2018.
2018. Oh, it's
Yeah.
brand new. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, newer.
So Sam Elliott was an American spy during World War II, and he killed Hitler. Flash forward 50 years, the government needs him to kill Bigfoot because
This is the most convoluted
I know.
reason ever.
Bigfoot is spreading a plague in Canada. And then flash forward immediately to him shooting Bigfoot. And then,
Is that what it was?
That's what it was. In the Canadian wilderness where like 3 people live.
Yeah.
It was spreading a deadly disease.
Spreading Bigfoot COVID?
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then he shoots Bigfoot immediately, but
COVID BF.
Bigfoot is quite wily and survives a few more attempts on his life. And Sam Elliott is presumed dead during all of this. His brother buries his military uniform and some mystery box from Pulp Fiction.
From J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. But surprise, Sam Elliott's not dead. And then he goes to his great niece's school play and says some real weird shit to his brother about dead butterflies. And then he digs up the mystery box, fishes a stone out of his shoe, and then he and his dog walk off into the moonlight, probably to die.
And there you have it.
That's the whole movie.
Okay, guys. So
You don't have to watch it.
we as a crew
Yeah.
were completely fooled by the title
Oh, yeah.
and poster of this movie.
Yes.
For
So
sure.
this episode is a PSA.
And the trailer.
And the trailer.
The trailer for this was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Bigfoot and Hitler and they're in 5 minutes of this thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, it should have been so good.
It could have had so much potential.
And they spent like 30 seconds on Hitler,
Yeah, I
like
know.
the whole killing of Hitler. And I was like, I was pumped for it.
It was-
and then all of a sudden it was over and that was it.
The 30 seconds was really good though.
Yeah.
Like the whole sneaking in undercover wearing
Yeah.
a Nazi uniform. And, you can see him struggling with the idea that he's being seen as this officer of the SS. And
Yeah.
he
and,
walks
like,
in, he's got this
the
cool,
whole putting the gun together
Yeah.
thing. That was awesome.
it was great. And then it was over.
It was done.
And then we went back to Sam Elliott eating breakfast with his dog.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Wah, wah,
So
wah.
I would say all of the flashbacks to
Yes.
young Sam Elliott were good.
Yes, I agree
Not
with
enough
that.
time was spent on that.
Yeah, so this movie, the narrative goes from modern day where Sam Elliott's character, Calvin Barr, is old. And then he keeps flashing back to his time in the war where he was young. And so you kind of have these parallel stories going on.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of reflecting on his life and his accomplishments and what his life means to him. And I will say that there was one scene that really struck me when he had that monologue when he was talking to the FBI agent about it doesn't matter that I killed Hitler because the hate that he caused was still around. It was just a man.
He said that the disease continued to spread
Yeah.
even though Hitler was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that they had already why do you think he had that haircut and that mustache and
It was
that
just
look?
propaganda.
Because they already had people in place to take his place if an attempt on if he had been assassinated, which made me think did you actually kill Hitler then?
Yeah, right.
Was that an imposter?
Yeah, he said that Operation Valkyrie actually succeeded, and then they replaced that guy with another Hitler. So there were 3 Hitlers,
How do you know?
and
That's real, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
would have been a more
No,
interesting movie.
that's a legit theory.
Yeah.
That's
Well, the
go
Russian...
watch History Channel.
Yeah,
It's
the
all
History
over
Channel, they have a whole thing where the body that they found with the bullet hole that the Russians took wasn't actually Hitler. It was somebody completely different. So there's the legit conspiracy theories about this kind of stuff, which is kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
But this movie just kind of
Brushed over it.
really brushed over the more interesting elements that it had to work with. And
Yeah.
it just focused really on how sad
They
he was.
focused so much on this.
She was upset.
I'm trying not to swear. They focused so much on this rock in his shoe that he kept trying to get out throughout the movie. And then he gets it out and he's like, oh, there it is. And he just tosses it and walking away. What the fuck?
it was a metaphor, my dear.
Metaphor.
See, okay, so the guy who wrote and directed this movie, his name is Robert Kraskowski, and this was his first movie, and he was known for being a web comic strip illustrator. He did this web comic called Elsie Hooper, and in his New York bubble, he kind of got some connections to make this movie.
Got some clout.
And originally it was going to be a straight up B movie, and then he starts getting these delusions of grandeur where he's like, I'm super deep. So I'm going to make this film super deep.
Yeah. It tried. I mean, there's a lot of deep subtext to everything, sure, but it's just it should have been titled something different.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a bummer. I was
thing-
watching it and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, there was we talked
There
about
were no explosions.
God. Okay. We talked about Hitler a little bit, which like we said, the flashbacks were actually pretty cool, but it was
I love
such a
start a sentence. We talked about Hitler a little bit.
Yeah. Talked about Hitler in this movie a little bit. Let's talk about how disappointing Bigfoot was, because that was not Bigfoot.
Not Bigfoot.
So
the Bigfoot.
So after the Bigfoot. So after he gets recruited by the FBI or some government agency to go and track down Bigfoot. Apparently, he's the only person alive that could possibly do this because he's immune to the disease that this Bigfoot is spreading.
There were 3 people in the whole world that could have done this, and 2 of them are dead.
Yeah, and he's the only one left.
They need
He's
a
immune.
1,000-year-old Sam
Sam
Elliott to go trek through the Canadian wilderness.
Well, the excuse was that he was the only one with the skills necessary to hunt the Bigfoot that was also immune
Yeah.
to the Bigfoot virus.
Yeah. But I did like the scene where he was getting geared up and he's like, I want that backpack, that gun, and that knife.
You like that?
Yeah.
No,
It was
he
cool.
said, I want that rifle, that
scope. That's
and
right.
this knife.
And this knife. And he just like, it's like a real basic, iron and wood classic rifle. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was a cool moment.
Yeah,
I liked it.
there were cool moments.
It was cool moments.
I think by that time of the movie,
You were sold out. You were,
which was an hour and a half into the movie. I was done.
Yeah.
I really like the opening of this movie where he's like alone at the bar and he's having these like flashbacks to the tune of that song that's playing, and it's a really cool song. And then when he leaves the bar, he gets mugged, and he basically like takes out these like 3 guys half his age.
Yep.
And after that, I was like, oh, this could be a really interesting movie, and it wasn't.
No.
I think they were more like a quarter his age. But
Yeah, he's really old. But it was again, there's like cool scenes peppered throughout this entire movie, but the parts of it that are like the majority of the film are just so boring.
This is
There's just a drag.
It's a drag.
It really
Yeah.
is.
It's a slog.
Yeah. And okay, so
It's funny because we chose this movie after our high of watching Roadhouse.
oh yeah.
And Jude was all about Sam Elliott. And so like, when
But I knew going in it wasn't going to be the sexy affair that Roadhouse was.
Yeah, but when I showed you the trailer, you were like, I'm in. I just want more
I
Sam
was
Elliott.
like, yeah, badass Sam Elliott.
So he actually makes it to the Canadian wilderness and he's hunting Bigfoot. And
Like right away, like after
Like,
he gets his weapons, it cuts to him shooting Bigfoot.
Yeah, when you say he gets there, they don't show that at all.
No, there's
he
no-
gets his gun and his knife, and then he has now shot Bigfoot.
boom.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, it's like Bigfoot, right? You see, I want to see Bigfoot on the big movie screen. I'm watching a film. I want to see what
Or
Bigfoot looks
I
like.
don't want to see him at all and let my imagination
Yes,
tell me what it is.
that's the other option.
Yeah.
They
They gave
went-
me way too much shitty Bigfoot.
They went for like dude in a bad monkey suit.
Yeah.
I was wanting, $6 million man.
Really?
Yeah. That's big.
Oh, the Bigfoot from that movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
pay
scene
attention.
Where he was
Yeah,
like
he
8
was-
feet tall,
yeah.
giant Bigfoot. No,
Andre the Giant Bigfoot.
we get like 5'11" Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And he actually says it over the radio. He's like, he doesn't actually have big feet. I was like, what? What are they doing?
He's a forest monkey.
Yeah, it's a Gigantopithecus. It was just so
A
weird.
young one, right?
Yeah. So the fight with Bigfoot, actually, I thought was actually pretty entertaining because
There's
it was,
the movie.
It was so grossed out.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, just Sam Elliott looking sad.
Yeah, in his
I'm
house.
sad and old.
In his house by himself. The fight with Bigfoot was actually pretty entertaining because it was so gross. He was like,
it was.
It was so great. He threw up in his mouth.
Yeah, it's
So after Sam Elliott shoots him, I guess it didn't die, but he thought it was dead.
Clippy winged him.
So he gets it in like this little funeral pyre with like some sticks and he's getting ready to burn it.
He's trying to pay homage to the noble creature he killed.
And it just wakes up and bites his ear off. and they're wrestling around in the dirt. And Sam Elliott's, of course, old as dirt. So he's just kind of like in his element, just trying to fight off this monkey man thing.
And when he broke his arm.
He broke his arm. He broke his pinky.
He broke his pinky finger.
Yeah, I broke my little finger. It just pops it back into place. It was just so goofy.
You do a good Sam Elliott.
Thanks.
I'm really old.
I'm really old and tired.
Broke my finger.
Where's my dog? Yeah, he broke
wish I
his,
could
he's all
die.
busted up. This freaking animal's beating the crap out of him. And then he gets the upper hand. He stabs it like 7 times in the stomach. And then it proceeds to just puke into his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a good long scene where it just kind of hung right there on his face.
It was kind of chunky too.
It was nasty,
Yeah.
dude. I was like, the tone of this movie is just all over the place.
It's one of the weirder movies I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the director, Kraskowski, he took an idea that was supposed to be a fun, stupid B movie, and he made it a meditation on loneliness and regret.
Ugh.
It made me feel lonely and regretful.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, like, this is one of those movies where like people either love it or hate it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there's a whole subsection of people out there who watch this movie and obsess over it.
Really?
Because there is a lot of stuff to
It's deep.
unpacked as a like film buff. You can sit there and analyze how this movie plays out and be like, okay, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. But as a casual film goer, if you just watch this, you're like, this movie sucks.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just the marketing was off. Like I went in ready to turn my brain off and watch Sam Elliott be a badass. And what we got was like an artsy fartsy freaking, human life reflection.
I had never heard of this thing before we decided to watch it.
Yeah. I've heard of it, but I was like, I don't know. I never felt like I needed to watch it.
I'm so excited to watch this movie.
Jude, why don't you talk a little bit? What was your process of watching this movie? Like in your head, you were like amped up, ready to see Sam Elliott?
I was amped. I was excited. And then I just got more and more disappointed as it went on. And then by the end, I felt empty. I was just devoid of excitement. And then I had to watch something happy afterwards. I was like, that was so depressing. And not because it was a sad movie. It didn't succeed in anything for me.
Yeah. It was too all over the place.
Yeah, it was so all over the place. It wasn't like, like you go and see a sad movie.
Yeah.
No, this is not it. It's just the attempt that it made as a movie was sad.
Like there's a movie in here where you can talk about a man who's lived his life and now he's, most of his friends are dead or gone. His wife is gone and he's just kind of waiting.
She was never his wife.
I'm sorry.
That's part of his regret.
Yes, part of the regret.
If you take out the 5 minutes of Hitler and Bigfoot, it's a Lifetime movie.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I think you called it that the first day.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Kate, is there anything that you can talk about this movie that's kind of like, it's got some good elements to it, some bad elements on a cinematography level? It's pretty. It's a pretty movie. I don't see any like.
I legit enjoyed all of the flashbacks.
I did too. Yeah, and I enjoyed some of the hunting Bigfoot.
I hated all of the hunting Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah, it was just the Bigfoot just looked so terrible.
Well, yeah,
that there was just nothing.
That's the part I didn't
redeemable.
like. Him tromping through the woods and like surviving was kind of cool to watch, but the Bigfoot was.
But
terrible.
if this had stayed like a silly, ridiculous B movie, that would have worked.
Mhm.
But
For sure.
the tone that they were working towards with this being like, an homage to loneliness, and then you get this silly friggin' Bigfoot. It didn't work.
Yeah.
This is two different movies.
You're right. I think I agree with you completely.
So speaking of two different movies, there are actually two different kind of narratives that are going on in this film. And basically the main character, Calvin Barr, the older version of which is played by Sam Elliott, the younger version of which is played by an actor named Aidan Turner. So in the, World War II timeframe, Calvin meets this woman named Maxine. And, she kind of comes into a hat shop that he's working at, and they meet and they kind of like fall in love. And
She's a school teacher.
Yeah, she's a school teacher. And he chooses that, he has to join the army and go off and kill Hitler. And so like many men in that time frame, he was, kind of going overseas to fight the war. And he wanted to marry Maxine before he left. But just through a confluence of events, like he was never able to pop the question to her. And while he was gone, she wrote him every day, but the letters never got to him because he was on this super secret mission. So like, he obviously wasn't getting mail. And when he gets back from killing Hitler, he discovers that she passed away tragically from some type of like cancer or disease or something like that. And he gets all of her letters. And, he starts reading through his letters, and the fact that he missed out on the love of his life while he was basically on a suicide mission that ultimately meant nothing kind of crippled him.
Yeah.
And so as he gets older, he's basically like, he doesn't really have any friends. He's got a brother who runs a barbershop, and he doesn't have a big connection with his brother because he's kind of a shut-in. And one night he gets mugged coming home from a bar. And for whatever reason, that kind of motivates him to try to reconnect with his brother. And during this phase of reconnecting, the U.S. government and the Canadian government show up at his house, and they say, hey, we've got a problem where Bigfoot is real, and he's in the Canadian wilderness, and he's spreading a disease. And this is a disease that has no cure, and it's going to kill the entire population of the world unless this Bigfoot is stopped. And the reason they're coming to him is because he's a legend for having killed Hitler, like within certain circles, and that he basically is immune to this Bigfoot disease.
They don't really explain why he's immune.
Well, they had his blood on file from World War II. And so like they were testing, all these people.
It's a super thin reasoning.
Yeah.
It's very bad. So like
because reasons.
Yes.
So he goes to his brother and he's like, hey, I've been tasked to do something. Can you watch my dog? And so the brother takes the dog and during their conversation, the brother's kind of like, I feel like you're kind of crazy, but okay. Like he doesn't sound like he believes him. But Sam Elliott gets taken up to Canada. He gets suited up and he goes out into the wilderness and he tracks down Bigfoot and he kills Bigfoot. But he gets really messed up in the process. And then he comes back and he reconnects with his brother after they've already had a funeral for him.
Yeah, I think it's so silly that he was presumed dead. Like, nobody went and checked for him.
Well, he's like 100 years old and he disappeared into the Canadian wilderness. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2, Jude.
Okay, but he's working for two governments.
But nobody knows that though. So that's a super secret mission.
But here's the thing. Okay. So at the beginning of this movie, Sam Elliott is taking medication, right? He's got like that little calendar medication holder where it's like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Pills are in that. And then at a certain point,
I have one of those.
Yeah. At a certain point,
he just chucks them.
He's so old.
At a certain point, he stops taking his medication and he throws it away. And immediately after he's off of his meds, these two mysterious government agents show up and ask him to hunt Bigfoot.
Oh, so you think that this was all in his head?
Well, there's a argument to be made that the whole Bigfoot thing was a delusion because he was off of his medication.
Oh, that makes it a little bit more interesting.
No, it doesn't.
No, not really.
Because if you look at it, so like the FBI agent is never named, right?
Yeah.
And the Canadian guy is such a cartoonish, version of a Canadian. Like he's got the French accent and stuff like that. And this idea that, Sam Elliott missed out on the love of his life and, has these regrets because his mission to kill Hitler never really bared any fruit.
Mm-hmm.
He's looking for some way to justify that. And, in that situation where he's talking to, the FBI guy and the Canadian guy, he explains that, him killing Hitler didn't do anything because the disease that Hitler created of socialism and hatred and stuff like that continued to spread. And he was never able to cure that disease. And why does he have to kill Bigfoot? He has to kill Bigfoot to stop a disease.
Are you trying to tell me that this is a good movie?
I'm trying to tell you that there are layers to the movie. So throughout the entire film, and I think in the second scene of the movie, we see that he's got something in his shoe, where he's walking, he'll just stop and he'll try to shake his foot, get something out of it. And he keeps checking his shoe throughout the movie because there's a pebble in there, but he can't find it, and it's something that plagues him, and that's like a metaphor for his regret and his disappointment for basically ruining his life over this mission that he basically undertook. And at the very end of the movie, after he's in his head killed Bigfoot and destroyed this disease, he finally finds the pebble and takes it out of his shoe. And that basically is his closure, where this thing that was nagging at him throughout his entire life he's finally free of.
And now he can go die.
So on a personal level, you think that the whole Bigfoot thing was all in his head? You think you're sold on that idea?
I think that there is a good argument to be made that is the case.
Okay.
Because if you look at, when he comes back from hunting Bigfoot, he's all
mangled,
bandaged up,
he's missing an ear,
and he goes to his brother who's in a fishing boat, and they were always talking about going fishing together.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that little river that his brother's on with the boat. That river is the exact same river that's in the painting that he's always watching on his wall when he's in his living room. It's like picture frame for frame. It's the exact same thing. And at the end of the movie, he takes that picture down and sets it aside because his delusion of going there with his brother, now he doesn't need it anymore.
That's Is this a good movie?
No. It's not a good movie.
It sounds more interesting when Candice is describing it. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. What a setup.
And there's this weird thing where like, so like if Sam Elliott is an unreliable narrator, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys remember the scene where he takes the girl that he's in love with, Maxine, out to dinner, and he's trying to propose to her, but people keep coming up and kind of interrupting it. Mm-hmm. And there's this couple there where it's like this drunk husband and his wife, and they're like, "Oh, you're our son's teacher." And the guy's kind of like, you know, flirting with Maxine in front of his wife, and he's just like kind of a drunk idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that character is played by an actor named Sean Bridgers. And if you get to the end of the movie, after Sam Elliott's supposedly dead, his brother is giving a haircut to a young man, like a little kid. And that kid's father is the exact same actor as the guy who played the drunk dad in the flashback. So you have to wonder, did that moment where that dad is talking to, you know, Calvin's brother, was that a figment of Calvin's imagination? Because he had this image of this drunk guy from his past that he just stuck into this image of what his brother's doing after he's dead.
My jaw's on the floor right now. Oh my God, guys. This movie's got layers.
I just don't care.
You don't care.
Give it 0 shit.
Yeah. All of that's cool, but I don't care.
It's like, ooh.
Because it wasn't, do you think it just wasn't presented enough in the movie?
This movie did not make me think at all.
Well, maybe that's the problem then, because like if you were not hoodwinked by the title and trailer to think that this was like some kind of crazy not slasher, but like a adventure movie, and it was more taken seriously, do you think you would pick up on some of that stuff and maybe give it a better chance?
I don't know.
I think this suffered from bad marketing.
I mean, at its core, this film was about rediscovering, you know, a connection to humanity despite these acts of violence that, you know, he committed that took his happiness away from him. And it took his connection from people and it stole his joy. And, you know, it uses these two fantastical elements to illustrate that, the killing of Hitler and the killing of Bigfoot. But it's primarily a character study about a man trying to reconcile his past in the service of others. And, you know, there's so much to be said about how the mugging at the beginning of the movie might have triggered him, and everything we see from that point on is a delusion. Or the minute he stops taking his meds, everything from that point on is a delusion. It could be that him killing Hitler was a delusion.
Part I thought.
Or it could be that him killing Hitler was real and the whole Bigfoot thing was a delusion.
Yeah, I'm more leaning towards that.
And but you know, there's so many weird things like the use of Sean Bridgers as in two different roles had to have been you know, intentional. Like you don't just stick an actor in two entirely separate roles. And it was funny because the first time we were watching that, like we were so checked out by the point he showed up again at the
you didn't notice it.
Well, I noticed it, but I couldn't be sure. I was like, is that the same guy from the flashback? Like, why would they put him in there? And then like I went back and rewatched it. I was like, oh, it was intentional. And so like there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's very kind of like smart and intentional and deliberate. And if you really kind of sit down and dig into this film, there's so many different layers that you could like run with on this. Yeah.
I'm too dumb for this
Ogres
movie.
have layers.
I'm too
Onions have layers. We both have layers.
I'm too dumb for this movie.
I just don't think it was very successful.
It's not an entertaining film.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you next. Do you think that this is a successful movie? Do you think this is a good movie?
I think that it fails on an entertainment level where like, you know, like I like popcorn-ish, you know, like funny on the nose stuff. Like if this movie had really been about killing Hitler and Bigfoot, it'd be awesome. Yeah. Right. Like Sam Elliott hunting Bigfoot.
Yeah. That sounds
Hell
awesome.
yeah. You know,
yeah. Let's do it.
But they went.
I could be tricked by that title again.
I mean, they went in a totally different direction with this, and it was, you know, the acting in this movie was good. The cinematography was good. The concept was interesting, but the way that they chose to portray it was so dry and boring. And like, if you don't pick, because like none of you guys picked up on this stuff.
I did not.
And I think the only reason I picked up on it is because I am a film student. Like I've studied movie making and, you know, narrative and stuff like that. So as I was watching it, I was picking up on all these like hints that the director was putting out there. And it took me a second viewing to really kind of like zero in on them.
Okay.
Because in my show notes, when I was researching this movie, there's not a lot on this movie out there to research. So a lot of it had to just be me kind of like looking at what was being presented to us. And we have the movie on in our studio right now. And this is a scene where basically the actor I was telling you about, who plays two different roles, first shows up. And, he's an actor that I recognize from other stuff. And so in this scene, he stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then like at the end of the movie, when he comes back, I'm like, oh, like that's the same guy. And I even went back because in this scene that we're watching right now, in the flashback, he names their kid. And I wanted to see if the kid that was getting the haircut at the end of the movie was named the same thing. But they never said the kid's name. Mm. And in fact, they never said the name of, the parents actually. Mm-hmm. So here's the scene, and the guy with the mustache.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that's the guy who shows up at the end of the movie. In modern day, not having aged a bit, and so like I was kind of thinking like, is that like these people's kids as an adult with his own kid, or was this something where Sam Elliott's delusion placed him in his delusion?
So there's some mind.
Yeah, there's some mind-bending elements to this.
Going on.
I did not pick up on any of that.
I don't think it was done very well.
Yeah, it failed on. Like I think
failed.
Yeah, it just failed.
And then my biggest
for us simpletons, for the film students.
Yeah,
Instead of going around the table and saying how many stars we give it, let's just give it a pass-fail.
well, but before we get to that, I want to mention this movie's biggest problem, which is the mystery box.
Yeah.
So throughout this entire movie, Sam Elliott has this wooden box that he keeps underneath his bed.
It's the suitcase from Pulp Fiction.
Well, it's this box that he keeps threatening to open, but for whatever reason, he just can't open it. And throughout the entire movie, we're just like, what's in the box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pulling a 7 here. And every time it looks like he's about to open it, he doesn't. And I'm like, the entire time Jude and I were watching this, I was like, they better show us what's in that freaking box.
Better pay it off
by the end. And so like,
and then by the end, we didn't care.
When they think that he's dead, his brother buries the box with his uniform and all this stuff in a funeral. And Sam Elliott, when he comes back, he reconnects with his brother and he's basically found his family again.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and he digs up his own grave, and he reaches in there and he takes the box out. And there's a lot of speculation as to like what was actually in the box online from people who've watched this film, because spoiler alert, they never tell you. And it's the stupidest thing.
That's very frustrating.
It's the epitome of the J.J. Abrams mystery box, where he's like, oh, what's in the box doesn't actually matter. It's just the fact that the box is there. I'm like, no, that's not how mysteries work.
I always like, for comparison, because we keep mentioning Pulp Fiction, I always just assumed that was Marcellus Wallace's soul in the suitcase. Well, that's kind of like, because they don't show you in that movie either. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of left up to
there are ways
to plot device
to do mystery boxes right, and there are ways to do them wrong. And this was definitely wrong, in my opinion. Like after the movie was over, Jude and I were like, "What was in that stupid box?"
Yeah,
and she had to.
I googled it.
But depending on the source, because what was the conclusion that you found?
The girlfriend's ashes.
All right. So first of all,
makes me more sad.
Well. Like, why would he have her ashes? Wouldn't her family have her ashes? That type.
Yeah, they were never married. They only dated.
They were
for a
never
short
married.
time.
He never had any real claim to her.
She was probably like ashes before he even got home from the secret mission. How'd he get them?
They never said like if she was buried or if she had been cremated. Like, there's just nothing there. And so the idea is that you could say that box is representative of his memories. And he's basically placed all of his memories in that box. And that's why he's afraid to open it, because he doesn't want to face them. So everything that we see of World War II with him and Maxine and him and Hitler, he's placed in that box. And he keeps threatening to open it, but he can never bring himself to open it. So he carries them around with him in a safe way. And basically all the flashbacks that we see in this movie, it's not him like actually remembering this stuff. Yeah. It's our glimpse in the box. But see, like we're watching the scene where he decides to stop taking his medication, And this was right after him refusing to open the box again, right?
Yeah.
And so his unwillingness to face what's in that box forces him off of his meds. And then immediately after he stops taking his meds, the secret military government guys show up and recruit him for a mission only he can do.
Yeah. I think you sold me on it, man. This is all just a nightmare or dream or whatever for him.
Yeah, I agree, but I still don't care.
Yeah. So let's do final thoughts and let's finish this off. Matt Vader, final thoughts on The Man Who Killed Hitler.
I have no thoughts.
And then
on this movie. I will never watch this movie again.
Has Kadish-
I don't care about this movie.
No.
I don't care about Kadish's deep thoughts from Jack Handy about this thing. And, no, it's a garbage film.
Oh, that's
Don't like it. It's a fail.
Thumbs down. Don't recommend.
No.
Okay. Jude, how about you?
It's a fail for me.
Really?
Mhm.
All right. See, I'm just too much of a nerd because I'm like listening to Cage and I'm like, maybe I should watch this movie again. See if I can pick up on some of this
You
stuff.
have limited amount of free time, sir. I would not spend it that way.
You're not wrong. Yeah, for me, final thoughts. It definitely has an interesting concept, and I think Kadish's deep dive definitely gives it makes me want to kind of think about it a little bit more and give it a second chance. But I don't, like you said, I don't know if I have time to do that or not.
I don't think it's worth the investment.
Yeah, it's tough to say for people. I mean, if you're intrigued by everything that Kadish had just said, I would say go check it out. It might be worth it if you're into that kind of thing. If you really want to like dive super deep into these
If you're
metaphors.
considering going to film school, this is the type of thing you're going to have to watch a lot of times. So yeah, maybe go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't think it's a poorly done movie when you look at it from that perspective. From an entertainment perspective, I think it was just too dull. It was it dragged too much out.
This was not an entertaining movie.
Yeah, it was not. Kadish, final thoughts on The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Bigfoot?
I would not recommend this movie. I don't think it was fun enough because you talk about Pulp Fiction. That's a deep movie too.
Yeah,
where you can sit there and as a film geek you can pull it apart, but on its surface it's fun, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
This movie's not. And you can tell that it was a first-time director because, he basically fell into all the pretentious first-time director traps of, filmmaking. And this is the type of stuff where if you go to film school, you get this out of your system before you start making actual
That's the
professional
word I was
movies.
trying to search for in my head is pretentious.
Yeah. So like this guy, he was a comic strip author who, Hollywood came knocking because his strip got popular and he kind of leveraged that into his first directing role. And I don't think he did a bad job in the sense that, he worked with the actors okay and he communicated a movie, but he pulled a Wachowskis with The Matrix 2 where they got too philosophical for their own good. And I feel like this should have been more of a fun movie than it was. But like before we sign off, I want to go around the table. Like if you guys were making this movie, what would you have done differently?
Okay, so I would probably have pulled back a little bit on the like regretting your past and like being old and depressed all the time. Like pull back on that element, leave it in there because it is important. It's a nice message. Not nice, but it's a good message to have in the movie. I understand where they were going with it. I would pull back a little bit on that and I would amp the fantastical elements. Like make Bigfoot freaking 9 feet tall, dude. Like make this, like when he beats Bigfoot, you should be like, holy shit, Sam Elliott beat Bigfoot. Not, oh, he killed some like weird looking monkey thing. And the Hitler thing, I would definitely spend more time setting up the Hitler. So like the flashback elements in the beginning of the movie, I'd spend a good long time on that, get that all set up, make it pay off so that it was an entertaining piece of the first act of the movie. Have the sad, depressed old man kind of in the middle for that little slump. And then the last third act of the movie, just have it full on fantasy Bigfoot, like go all out.
Fascinating.
How would you have done it, Vader?
I don't know. I would have made a fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Where he kicks Bigfoot?
I know.
He roundhouses them.
He's in a split between two trees.
Oh, we need some doves. Some
Yes,
slow
doves.
motion
Yep.
doves.
Double-handed.
I would have made a ogre Ben Bigfoot.
Yeah. Would you have put boobs in the movie?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a must.
Yeah.
There's no movie.
I would have made Bigfoot a female Bigfoot and then given her like 6 boobs.
Giant hairy boobs. That would have at least gotten 1 star from Vader. All right.
So as I say, if you're a pretentious movie snob, you might get something out of this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
There is one scene in this movie that stood out to me that I wanted to touch on before we wrap things up. So there's a scene where in the flashback where young Calvin has made it to Europe, and he's got this big beard because he's been traveling, and he meets up with his I want to say that they're gypsies. They're like a gypsy connection that's going to smuggle him into Germany so he can do his mission. And there's this big long scene between him and the gypsy leader, where the gypsy leader is basically, he doesn't know much about his mission, but he knows that it's important. And so he has this discussion with him about fate. And he does this weird scene where basically the gypsy leader shaves him, he shaves the beard off. And he says that if, only God can do something perfectly. And so as he's shaving, if he nicks him, if he draws blood, it's an imperfect shave. And therefore, it's a good omen because, God has blessed them. But if he does a perfect shave, it's an insult to God, and Calvin's forever cursed. And he will die, and he'll be doomed to fail. And he actually succeeds in giving him the perfect shave. He doesn't draw any blood.
That's pretty deep.
It's very deep, Vader.
And so this entire, Calvin's whole thing with the rock in the shoe and stuff like that, you see that when he got back to civilization, he was cursed because his mission didn't mean anything. His love died. He's old and alone and isolated. His only friend is his dog. And he just has nothing but, regret in his life.
Wow.
And so that curse came true. And the whole killing of Bigfoot was a way of lifting that curse. And so by the end of the movie, he's actually found happiness, whether or not it was happiness in death or happiness in him reconnecting with his family.
Happiness in his delusion.
Yeah, happiness in his delusion. Whatever it was, he finally lifted that curse, and that's why that little pebble in his shoe fell out.
Well, you did a better job of explaining this movie than the filmmakers.
Yeah. Moral of the story is never shave.
Grow a beard.
Grow a beard, never shave. You'll upset God. Okay. Well, that's it for today's episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider going to saltynerdclub.com and help support us and become a patron. And if you'd like to get some merch, go to saltynerdstore.com. We got some cool stuff there and designs and whatnot. And, you guys can shout out to us on Twitter. Where can we find everybody? Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at IamJudeJuju on Instagram and Twitter.
Right on. And they can yell at you for picking this movie.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. But we watched it so that you don't have to.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, our talk about this movie was probably better than the actual movie.
Yeah, you sold me on the movie. I'm like, well, that sounds like a good movie. And then I look over and we're watching it and I'm like, oh,
it's
that's
not
right.
though.
Yeah. Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
They can find me at MattVader74.
All right.
On Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and
all the places. Nice. Yeah. Right on. And Matthew Kadish, where can they find you at?
At Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter and Parler. And you can go to kadishbooks.com to check out my Amazon page where you can check out my novels.
Right on. And I am the Salty Nerd, your host. You can find me on Twitter at salty_nerd. You can talk to us about movies and other cool stuff. All right, guys, signing off. Have a great day. See you later.
When it comes to working at Geico, our best advocates are our employees, like Maxine. But since she is so focused on growing her career, we hired an actor to read her story.
At Geico, I love mentoring the new associates to help them make this a career and not just a job.
And with new opportunities and job stability, Geico has been helping people grow their careers for over 75 years. The only downside, she still hasn't met the gecko. Where are you, fella?
Ready to start your career, Virginia Beach? We're hiring claim sales and service agents. Apply online today at geico.job/Virginia Beach. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Nope, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.